Okay, so today I'm going to show you something that's never been done before in Arweave and is a massive unlock to the ecosystem. Orbit Oracle is the very first decentralized Oracle on Arweave, which allows you to rapidly take any data from the internet and then bring it onto an AO process within seconds. Now, I know oracles are nothing new to the world of Web3, but decentralized AI is. And when you pair an oracle like Orbit with something like AO, we now have unlocked a whole new world of possibilities. The large language models on AI are just around the corner, so I want to prepare you for what's coming by showing you how easy it is to bring internet data on-chain using Orbit Oracle. Let's get into the machine. All right, so I want to open up my preferred text editor, which I have open here. And before I actually dive into the code, let's go ahead and pull up the actual documentation. So I'm going to pull up my browser here, and then I'm going to open up a tab. And the website is not Orbit as in O-R-B-I-T, but it's zero R-B-I-T. Sorry, forgot how to spell. Orbit is ZORBIT.co. Excellent. Beautiful website. I'm going to hit build with us. That's going to take me to the documentation. And then I'm going to take a look at developer. And this is giving me a really cool tutorial to do my first GET request. Now, before I really dive into specifically this tutorial, I want to show that there is a sponsored GET request. So if you don't have any Orbit test tokens just yet, you can actually go and do this entire process without necessarily needing the testnet tokens. Now, I'm going to use the testnet token so I can walk you through that process and how that works as well. Let's go into here. All right. So some of the prerequisites is I have a decent understanding of AOS, got AOS installed. I have some Orbit testnet tokens, and we can learn how to get those here using a text code editor. And from there, we can start building. So, all right, so let's cover a little bit of the token. If I want to actually port or show the token inside of my wallet, which I'm going to use RConnect for, I actually need to go to protocol. I'm going to see this little button here, and I'm going to copy this process ID here, okay? Take this and copy it, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up into my wallet, okay? Now, I already have it in here, and I've got my testnet tokens, but I'm just going to walk you through the process on how to bring it in. So I'm going to click here, go to settings. All right, next thing I'm going to do, click on tokens, and then I want to import a token. This is specifically an AO token, so I'm going to click on AO token. I'm going to paste that process ID in there, and it's going to find it right there for me. Now, again, I already have it, so I don't need to add it. Now, if you don't see these, make sure you have this little button checked, because if you don't have this button checked, you're not going to see any of the AO tokens. All right, that's pretty much it from there. I'm going to close that out. I don't need that. And let's get back to the tutorial. Let's go to developer, and let's go to get first request. Excellent. I'm going to bring this up a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. There we go. All right, now I want to create a new file. So I'm going to copy that, head over here, open up my terminal, and then I'm going to create this file right here. Perfect. All right, so let's open up that file. And then the next thing it says is to initialize the variables. Just copy this and let's paste. Okay, let's just walk through this a little bit. Okay, so I see local JSON, required JSON. Okay. And I see two process IDs. I see the Orbit process ID and I see the Orbit token process ID. Obviously, these are both things that I'm going to interact with. So I need to have these inside of the Lua file. And then the fee amount. So this fee amount looks like, I don't know, like probably like $1 billion or something like that. And right here, it's the equivalent of one Orbit token. All right. So that just shows me that the fee amount, if I'm actually doing, I'm going to pull some data, the cost of it's going to be about one Orbit token. All right. And then the base URL is this dummy JSON products. Okay. So this is, a fairly standard website that you use to just test APIs or, data scraping or anything like that. So if you want to take a look at it here, you can just paste it into your browser, and that's just going to show me a bunch of dummy data. Okay. If you look really close, I see like Surface laptop 4-inch description, and so on. So this is just a bunch of dummy data, but I don't need this window open. All right. So we've got that figured out. What's next? Let's make the request. So this handler is going to be specifically for making the request. All right. And you're going to add this to the same file. Okay. So, oops, here we go. All right. So in the same file, I see handlers add, and this one is going to be called get request. Okay. And then it's broken down into handlers, utils, as matching tag. Okay. Action, first get request. Okay. So this is obviously going to be a handler that I'm going to invoke. Okay. Meaning I'm probably going to send this message using this specific action tag. Okay. And then here it's going to have this function where it sends this message. The target is the orbit token, which is what I'm interacting with here. And then it's going to have that action of transfer. Okay. So that orbit token has a handler that is going to use basically this right here, has matching tag of transfer. And then the recipient is going to be orbit. So I'm basically transferring that token here. And then it shows the quantity is the fee amount, which I see right here. It's the fee. Okay. So far, I think everybody's following. What's the information that I'm basically pulling is the base URL, which is this dummy data right here. Okay. And then from here, that X action is get real data. Perfect. Okay. And then when that goes through, it's going to print for me with a green color saying you have sent a get request to orbit process, and then ends. Excellent. So we fully understand how that handler works. Now let's go over to the documentation, scroll down. This is basically explains exactly how I was talking about it earlier. Let's go to the receive data. Okay. Copy. Excellent. And then we paste this. All right. This adds the next handler where I'm going to receive data. Okay. And this says handlers, utils, has matching tag. So this is when I'm probably receiving that response. And that response is going to basically enact this handler by matching this specific tag, the action receive response. Okay. And then that's going to make this function trigger where it uses the local res JSON. So it's going to decode that message. It's going to decode that message, that JSON message. And then I'm going to be able to receive that data. And this is going to print, you have received the data from the orbit process. And okay. So from the next part is coming down, goes through the explanations, and then we can actually run through that process. So the one thing I didn't explain here is this received data right here. Okay, so this is essentially going to be a variable where it's going to actually change the JSON information into a very easily readable output. In order to be able to read that output, I will probably just type in receive data to be able to see that, but we'll follow the documentation again. All right. Anytime I'm actually building inside of a Lua file and I'm pasting anything in here, I always like to make sure that I'm saving. So I just hit Command Save constantly. And from there, all I have to do is run the process. Okay. Now it says to run AOS. I'm going to name my AOS. You can name your AOSs, and in case you want to separate what you do with the different processes, and it'll create a new process ID every time you name your process ID when you actually invoke it. Okay, so let's go ahead and invoke our process ID. AOS, Orbit. There we go. Okay, so the process has started. I have my process ID here. And next thing I need to do is go back to the documentation, check this out, go to load the process. So now I do see one little error here. We'll get this fixed in a second. I want to make sure that I type in .load, and then I'm actually going to load that file name. Okay. So here, and then load. I will hit enter, and that's going to pull in that Lua file, and it's going to actually make sure that I have all those handlers in there. So if I type in handlers.list, I can see those handlers there, which is the get request and the receive data. Okay, so everything's going smoothly so far. Transfer some orbit into your process ID. Okay, so this is important. I want to make sure that I get my proper process ID. You could do that very easily by typing in AO.ID. Excellent. And I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my wallet. I'm going to send, 5 orbit to my process ID. So I'm going to hit send. This is my recipient, and I'm going to send 5 orbit. There you go, 5. Don't need a message or anything like that. Hit next, and then confirm. Sweet. Super fast transaction, and it'll show me all the transaction ID and everything here. So I have my transaction ID right here. Excellent. I can look at that and AO scanner if I want to, but let's just jump right back into it. What you're going to see now is a credit notice. So it prints the credit notice, basically saying that I have received the Orbit testnet token. And let's see what we need to do next. So from here, all I have to do is call the handler. So I will copy this and paste this in here. So to break this down a little bit more, maybe make it a little bit bigger, I'm going to send this message. My target ID is my ID in this case, because I'm enacting this first handler, which is specifically the first GET request. Going back to that specific handler and just, reviewing it one more time. When I do this and it has the magic tag, it's going to send this message. The target is the Orbit token. The action is to transfer. The recipient is his Orbit. And then the quantity is that fee amount, which is 1 Orbit. And then my base URL is that dummy data. Okay, so everything's good so far. Let's go ahead and send that message. So this is, in this process right now, this is going to be able to pull data that is on the internet into my AO process. Excellent. So you have sent a GET request to the Orbit process. Excellent. And then a message received. Now, the next part is to be able to look at that data. So the data was going back down here, was received, and then I can see this function, local data, decode into message data, and then that received data was saved. So all I need to do now is, used received data. So I'll just copy this, enter. Perfect. And I can take a look at the dummy data here. So I'm looking at what looks like, products pretty much, which, that's what the dummy data said it was, it was listing. I can see price, the stock amount, brand, the product ID, discount percentage, title of that product, rating, everything. And now think of it this way. You can take something like this and be able to pull that information. And next part would be to actually create some sort of process or handler that creates specific action or does specific actions based on the data received. So there's 2 ways to look at this. You can look at block data, or you can look at, just general data itself, or you can look at price action, something a little bit more numerical. Price action is really easy to kind of break down, because if a price used to be this and now it's this, then you can create a handler that executes a specific action of like sell that token. And then the next thing is, price goes from here and then goes down, buy that token, something super basic like that. But yeah, this is very easy on setting up basically your Orbit Oracle and pulling in that data, and then having some sort of AI agent create actions based off of that data. And that is it. It really is that easy. Orbit Oracle is such a huge unlock to the Arweave ecosystem. And when you pair that with AI agents built on AO, it feels like the possibilities are endless. So head over to the Orbit documentation so you can try out the tutorial yourself. And a little bit of alpha, there's a couple quests in there that allow you to earn some Orbit token. So check those out as well. And if you haven't yet, follow them on X as well as AO the Computer. And until next time, I'll see you in the machine.